Hello, my name is Rob Baker, and this is the Unison Corporation Model 2100 CNC Dead True Soundless Grinding System. Now I'm going to walk around to the back and put power to the machine so that we can start doing our training. If you come all the way around to the back here, there's a nice big red handle here for on and off, and we want to turn that to the on position. And a good indication that the power is on, you'll be able to hear the drives running, and also when you walk around to the front of the enclosure, you'll notice that the light inside the enclosure has been turned on. Now we have to wait a couple seconds here just for the thing to boot up, the software, and it already has. And the very first thing we're going to do is we must reference the machine so that the control knows exactly where the positioning is of the axes. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can go to F10, which is your reference page. And let me step back, because the first thing you need to do is turn the control on. Once you turn the control on, you need to reference all the axes, and you can do that a couple different ways. You can either push F10 and go to reference all and push enter, or you can also just hit the reference key here. And it will start referencing all the axes. First the Z, once it finds its home position, then it will go to the X or the Y, and eventually it will know exactly where it's at. This generally only takes a few moments, probably less than a minute to do the whole thing. You can actually see the machine actually moving and finding its positions. And it looks like it is complete. So now once we've done that, if you get the Dead True and it has not been properly mounted onto the surface grinder, what you need to do is actually to remove the fixture and get a parallel rod that's at equal distance from the cradle blocks to one another, and you need to indicate them in so that they're parallel. You would just get an indicator mounted up on a surface, maybe like the back of the spindle here, and you just run it back and forth until you can get it dead nuts. Once you did that, you just lock them in place. You can put the fixture back on, and now you're set up parallel every time. As long as you don't move those, you'll be set up perfectly every time, whether you take it on or off. Now after you do that, you have your Dead True right here. And this is exactly how it should come to you when you buy it. You have all your blades here that come with it, which allows you to do the 1/4 inch to 1 1/4 inch. Anything above or below those desired diameters, you would need some additional blades and guides. You can do up to a 5-inch OD with this particular fixture with an optional blade holder. Once you get the 2100 in your facility, you need to dress the regulating roll to the surface grinder. And the way you do that is the first thing you got to do is you got to strip down the Dead True. And by stripping it down, I mean you need to remove the blade holder, you need to remove the end stop arm right here, you need to remove the rest plate assembly, and you need to remove the arm and also the pressure roll. And I believe almost all of these things remove either by hand or with a 3/16 Allen wrench. I have all these things relatively loose from just setting it up previously, and hopefully with just some hand turns I should be able to get them, but obviously it will be a lot tighter than this and you would need an Allen wrench. Once you remove all these things, you can store them down in front of the machine in our fancy little tray down there. Everything has its own little special spot for it, but you can determine that as you use it what's best for you. First thing there is I got the end plate, the rest plate off. Now I'm going to take off the handle and the pressure roll. And it just screws into the pivot block right here. Next I'm going to take off the rest plate assembly here, which is just some knurled nuts here. Just screw off. And then this rest plate will pop right off like such. One big piece. Throw that down there. You can throw these knurled nuts in here. Now you should be able to unloosen these nuts back here, and there's some down here which are 3/16 like I said, and with any luck this pressure, the blade holder should pop right off, and of course it doesn't, so I'm going to have to get an Allen wrench just to help in that. So I'm going to go grab myself a 3/16 Allen wrench. This is a T-handle, which we provide a standardized tooling with the Dead True system. I'm going to put it in here at the elevating screw and turn it clockwise. Just try to raise it up a little bit to relieve the suction that's on there, and hopefully with any luck it should pop right off. Look at that, perfect shot. And we can store that down here as well if you'd like in our fancy tray down here. Just temporarily, of course. The other thing we're going to have to do right now is I'm going to go get another Allen wrench, because when we dress the regulating wheel, I like to remove this this threaded rod there, because what happens is sometimes people forget about that and you take it right out with the grinding wheel. So let me go grab that 5mm, if I'm not mistaken, Allen wrench. And here it is. See here, this should be real simple to turn out. Just loosen it up, it comes right out. And again, you can store this down in the tray as well. This way you know where all the stuff is whenever you need it. And what I like to do is I like to take a little cover sometimes, or anything. You could even put a screw in there if you'd like, just something to keep all the coolant and the debris from the rig roll from getting in there, since this is threaded. And it's just something to clog it up right now. And that's what I would do. And I would clean up my area as far as putting away my tools here, because if you can't find them when you need them, they're really no good to you. Let me throw this back here. Alright, now we're almost set to start dressing the regulating wheel. One of the most common mistakes everybody makes when dressing the regulating wheel is that we have a PT block back here mounted in the back on the surface plate back here, and I'm trying to grab it so we can see it. And here it is right here. And we call it a PT block. The P is for parallel and the T is for taper. And it's actually 500 and this is 512. 500 is parallel and it's the same distance as the cradle blocks in the front. So if you put it on there, then you're actually true parallel with the front. So then you want to put that back here, and you got to kind of feel it or get a mirror. Lie that down there across the way. Then you want to slide the fixture back down, and hopefully you hit on it. And you know that I hit on it right there, and that's good to go. Now the thing we got to do is we got to start setting up the actual machine for doing the dressing. Whenever you dress the regulating wheel, you need to give a diamond dressing wheel. You can use a diamond dressing wheel that you have or one that we sell. It really doesn't matter as long as it's on a Sopco wheel adapter, which will mount to our spindle like such. And I just happen to have one down here. We're dressing the regulating wheel. This is just a 6-inch one. This is the one we sell. I believe it's part number 200-1077. And we're just going to mount that onto the spindle like such. And we're going to put the spindle on there, and it's a left-handed thread. Something you need to remember. You want to get that nice and snug, just by hand, obviously. And then you're going to grab the wheel wrench, which is another standardized tool that comes with the machine. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to get a little bit hand tight as I get it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab something just to bang on a little bit. And I have an old punch here that I'll use just to tighten it up. Basically, I'll just hold it and just bang on it. Make sure so you don't fall off. And this can go right back down there as well, because you're going to need it later on to remove the wheel. Make sure you always have your wheel guard on there for safety reasons. Put that on there. Okay, what we're going to do now is set up the control to dress the regulating wheel, and we're going to show you how simple that is. The very first thing we want to do is we want to go to the F6 page and define the wheel. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to go into the edit wheel page. And you're just going to either use the mouse to get to the edit wheel or just use the arrows to get down there, and once you get there, hit the enter button. This is obviously not the wheel we want to do, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the edit segment here, and we're going to hit the delete. And we're going to start from there. Then basically we're going to insert a horizontal, and push enter, and then we're going to define how wide the regulating wheel is. And we know that it is actually 4 inches wide, but what we're going to do is we're going to make it slightly bigger or wider in length, just so that the wheel basically passes all the way to the edge of the wheel on both sides. So we know it's 4 inches, we're going to make it 4.1. We're just going to put 4.1 in there, we're going to hit enter again, okay. Now we got to go over here and we're going to put a save, and we get to save just by pushing the arrow down. Save the profile. Okay, that's saved. Now we have to go up to the finished. Once you get the finished, just hit enter again. Now we have the wheel, now we need to edit the dress. And because we saved it, it's very simple. We just go down to edit dress, we hit enter, we get the arrow over to load profile, we hit that, we know that it was 110, we hit it again, and we're good to go once we go back up here and hit the finished. So now we know that our dressing path is basically set up. All we need to do now is to set the starting point of the dress. And the way I do that is we're going to have to go into, I believe it's F7. And now we have to touch off on the top of the regulating roll. When you dress, you want to find the dead center of the regulating roll. And once you find dead center, we're going to move it off slightly to the right. And another important feature that I forgot to mention is that we need to get all the way down here. You can arrow down or you can cursor, and you want to hit on the regulating roll. Keep hitting it till you get to regulating roll, and we're good to go. Now let me move my axes over there to find the top of this so we can set it up for our set diamond. And the way I do that is you can use the Z-axis and bring it down, until you get really close. You want to get over the regulating roll. You don't want to crash into it, so just move the machine at a good pace. Keep moving the axes until you get to where you need it. And it takes a few moments, but take your time. You'd rather be safe than sorry. You don't want to be crashing this thing. If you keep your finger on this button, it's going to just keep going. It's just a control, and it's a motor just telling itself to keep going. So you got to stop it. You just want to eyeball it to try to find the dead center as best you can. That looks a little bit close. So now I'm going to lower the Z a little bit, and you can use this little handle if you like to find the top of it. You can spin it a little bit. You can actually touch off on it. You just don't want to crash into it. I'm almost there. You'll almost hear a little scraping when I touch it. You get too close, you'll just stop it. It's not a big deal. Like I said, you just don't want to crash into it. I'm getting really close right now. Looks pretty close. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the X-axis now to see if I actually found the center. And see, I'm still a little bit above it. What I'm going to do is lower the Z a little bit more. That's a little too much there. That was actually touching and stopping. Right there is almost the top. I go back to the X-axis. I'm going to move it from side to side. And I'm just missing it. Oh, there we go. See how the wheel's actually touching it? That is like dead center right there. If you can notice how it's wobbling back and forth. Once you get that position, basically all you need to do then is just move it a little bit to the right. Now you got the position you want it as far as being over the center of the regulating roll, just slight right to it. Now what I want to do is go back to my Y-axis, because what I want to do is get off of the regulating roll a little bit, just like that. And if you see, I've actually touched it a little bit. You can see the mark that I made right there. So what we might want to do is just raise the Z just a smidgen, because you really don't want to start it crunching into it right away. Now I know I'm above it. Now basically I'm set to where I want to start the dressing. All I need to do at this point now is go over to it up here, right where it says set diamond, and press the enter. Now all my parameters should be set. This should probably grind a little air on the first pass, and then after that it should start slowly taking out increments of the regulating wheel to true it up. If you're not sure about it, one way to do it is you could do a dry cycle, you could do a dress once or dress many. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to cycle abort here for a second. And I think we're going to give it a little trial run. Now that we have all our parameters set up, we're pretty much ready to get going here. The first thing you got to do is you got to close the doors here. You have to meet these proc switches here, otherwise nothing will work. And the first thing we're going to do over here is we're going to turn the spindle on. Okay, that's good. Then we're going to go over here and we're going to hit the dress many. You can do that by a couple ways. You can use the mouse or you can use the arrows to get you there, whatever you need. I'm going to get over here and dress many. You're going to hit enter. Now what it does is it's going to bring up the standard parameters that are set up prior to the machine leaving our facility. You can change these to take off as much as you want in as many passes as you want. It's set up to take off, what is that, 50 thou, and that's going to be at 1 thou per pass, so it's going to actually take 50 passes to run its course basically. Once you have that all set up, you just got to go over here and you're going to start the dress. You can always keep your hand on this feed override too, just in case you're worried about it crashing. And it looks like everything is going well because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. It's dressing the regulating roll. I don't think it's actually touching it right now, but probably in a pass or two it probably will. But it's a real smooth pace, just nice and slow, and all you're basically doing is knocking off all the impurities that get caught up in the regulating roll over time from grinding different materials, whatever they may be. And in this application, basically, we're truing it up to make it square with the actual surface grinder machine. And this is what you should do whenever you get a new dead true, no matter what surface grinder you're mounting it to, you should always dress it into that grinder. So we'll let this run for a little while, and we'll probably start taking off a little bit of material. And it's got a nasty smell to it, but it's good to go. Once we're done with that, okay, now you can see that the regulating roller comes rest. And if you can see, look at it, it's kind of a little gloss, it's got a nice little smooth feel to it. And if you want to look at it, you can basically come back over here and just select the axes. The roll, you can turn the roll on ever so slowly, and you can look at it. You can slow it down if you need to. Just look at it, make sure it's all smooth. Okay, once we've determined that we're happy with that, then basically what we want to do is we want to shut this down, and we're going to stop the spindle. That's the most important. So spindle off. Depending on if you have a variable speed or not, it will slow down a lot faster than this. If not, you just got to wait till it stops. Safety first. Don't want to lose any fingers, don't want to get hit with anything. Once it slows down like this, we're going to push the cover back and wait for it to stop. And then we're going to get the wheel wrench again, which is down here in our tray. And we're going to need my trusty tool to help break it loose. You might be able to break it loose with your hand if you want to, but I find it better if you have a hunk of steel or something, just something with some weight on it, you can just bang on it. Just break it loose like that. Then just let it spin out until you get it off. Once it gets close, you don't want to knock it over like that, but it happens. Just get it when you get an opportunity. Which I can grab at any moment here when we get this wheel off for it. You flip the wheel wrench around. It's got threads in there. It'll screw right into it. And you just turn this handle until it pops it off. Keeps going. There you can bang on it. And it'll pop off like such. Now your wheel's off. Now we're going to define a new wheel, which I got down here as well. And whenever you put a new wheel on there, you got to know the diameter of the wheel and also the width. Okay, I got a 12-inch caliper here, and I'm going to measure the wheel to get the exact diameter, or roughly the exact diameter. That way I can enter it into control, and I got that number now. So now I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to enter that into the screen here. It's the predictor down here. I'm going to go to the diameter, and I got 6.816. I'm going to enter that. Once I do that, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to edit the wheel. I'm going to go edit the wheel, I'm going to hit the enter. Now I need to get the width of the wheel, because when I start defining the wheel out there, I'm going to need to know this. And I'm guessing it's right around a 1/2 inch. That's what it looks like to me. And I got right at a 1/2 inch. So that should be easy enough to remember. Put this down for a second. I'm going to hit the delete key a few times here. And we're going to enter a horizontal. Insert a horizontal, okay, and we know that it's 500 or 1/2 inch, which it is already in there, so we're good there. We can just hit enter and enter, okay. I'm going to go over here, we're going to save this profile. Okay, then we're going to go up and we're going to hit the finish key. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit dress, hit the enter, we're going to load that profile that we just saved. Hit the enter, now that's loaded. Now we should just go to finished. Now I believe we have to figure out and touch off on the diamonds. And the diamond we're going to use for this particular dress is going to be the diamond on the back of the blade holder, which I have to assemble here. So I'm going to have to get all the blade holder stuff and mount it again. And I'm going to move this caliper off. And now we're going to mount that wheel that we just defined in the dressing. I'm just going to mount this onto the spindle shaft. Make sure it's on there. Get the spindle nut, which is right-handed. Make sure you thread this on the right way. Use this nice wheel wrench here to get it a little snug. And once you get it snug, you're going to want to get yourself some kind of piece of material or something with some weight to it, maybe even a little hammer. Just to make sure she's snug. Put all your trays, your tools in the tray here. Put the cover back on. So the wheel's mounted. Now we need to work on getting the dead true back to being assembled here, and the first thing we need to do is to get the blade holder on here. I'm going to get a little rag just to clean this the guide post off. Hopefully that way it'll slide on and off easy. So always try to keep this fixture as clean as possible when you're not using it, or when you're done using it. Hopefully this thing will slide right on, nice and easy. Of course it doesn't. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to put in the little line here in the back that goes into the cool dress diamond. That way, make sure you got some coolant running to the diamond here, because this is the diamond we're going to use for dressing. Because we're just going to dress this wheel straight and true. Once we get the blade holder where we want it to be, we're going to want to use the 3/16 Allen wrench again to remove these blades, because I'm not really sure if we're going to do a plunge grind right now, or an in feed or through feed, but just for demonstration purposes we'll remove them so that they're not even into the equation. These are two different blades here. The 4-inch blade is for the in feeding and the plunging, and the 8-inch is for the through feed. And again, these all store nice and easy down in here. We're going to want to lock in place the blade holder, tighten these up, and we can actually raise and lower the blade holder with the elevating screw. I'm not really sure how far we want to put it down, but just for dressing purposes we'll just leave it up right here. And you're going to want to screw these nuts here, the knurled nuts that actually go to the post. So now it's on there nice and snug. So now all we got to do is bring our wheel over and touch off on it for the dressing. With these hardened seam washers in place. And something that's really important too, something we didn't talk about a few moments ago, was the dressing location. We still have it under the regulating rule, so we want to make sure we change that out. So just a standard wheel, because we're no longer going to dress the regulating wheel, we're going to start dressing the grinding wheel. Now we need to go and turn the control on, which it already is, and we need to go over, select our axes here that we want to get over to the actual diamond that we're going to use. You can use the jog keys, or you can use the roller, whatever you feel comfortable with. And once we get over that, we're just going to touch off on it. Again, you could be dead center, or you could be a little bit right of center. It's not an exact science, and we just want to touch off on it. So then we know where the wheel is going to start dressing at, because we put in the parameters for the wheel. The wheel is, roughly almost 7 inches in diameter, and we know that it's a 1/2 inch wide. So let's get over here. Let's see, move the Y. Let's bring the Z down. Get her close. Switch axes to the Y. When you're doing this too, you want to make sure that you're not going to interfere with any of these screws or anything like that. And if you are, just take these out. These generally are nothing to worry about. They're usually not in play as far as dressing. And I'll get a little closer here, and we could touch off on that diamond and go from there and find the center. Bring that Z down a little bit. Now when you get close, again, you want to use the handle here. Get you awfully close. This way you don't have to worry about crashing into it very hard. So you definitely don't want to damage your grinding wheel or the diamond. Just waiting to hear a little scrape, and there it is. So I'm backing up a little bit. So we know that that's pretty much where we want to be. So now we just want to go back to the Y location and move it off of the diamond, so that we know that right there is basically the start location. You may want to make sure this diamond is straight as well. I don't have it real snug, and you want to make sure it's snug, because if not, the pressure of the wheel could actually push it up or down. We don't want that. Try to get a little better center, because it doesn't look like it's too center to me. Back to the Y. Take it over this. Go to the X. And just like we do with the regulator, I just want to get close to the center. So once we get close to the center, I want to back it off just a little bit. Touch on there. Let's see about the X. Okay, it's just touching there. So that's telling me that's right around the center right there. So I'm going to move it a little bit right of center. So now I'm going to go back to the Y-axis. I'm going to back it off. And I know that I'm off the diamond right there. So that's going to be my set diamond location. Now you can use the cursor or you can use the arrows and go up to the set diamond. Alright. I think we're good to go now. Everything's been set. Got the wheel pack 110, wheel 0. You can also, we could do a dry run. You could do a dress once to see how it's going to go. Because you're going to want to make sure you get some coolant over there anyways. There's automatically some coolant running up through here. So let's go and let's go out, cycle aboard here, and then we'll go to dress once. I'll turn the spindle on, and we should be pretty close. I'm guessing that the first time it probably won't hit the diamond. It'll probably be just above it. But let's see, let's turn on the spindle. Let's turn the coolant on. I think the coolant will automatically turn on when we start the dress. So let's try that. If not, then I'll be ready just to turn the coolant on as well, but I think it's going to come on. We're going to go dress once just to see how it is. Close the door. And we should be able to try it here. And we've got the feed rate over. I'm going to slow it way down to see how close we are, because in your mind sometimes you think you're right there, but you're not. And you want to make sure before you start crashing wheels. They can get expensive. And you got to start repairing stuff. And it's actually touching. It's actually hitting just like we thought it would. Not too bad. A nice little smooth sound to it. So now we know that it's dressed at. We're going to go into a dress many now. We'll probably just turn the feed rate just to be safe. We're going to move up to or down to the dress many, and we're just going to hit it. Should come over. It should start dressing right away. And there we go. You can hear it dressing. Going to keep dressing. And what you're looking for here is you want a continuous dress. Like right now, it seems like it's only dressing towards the back, which maybe could be an imperfection in the diamond. Maybe it's a little high in one spot. You want that continuous, nice, smooth dressing sound as it travels across the wheel. I'm going to turn the feed rate back up because I did turn it down just a little bit. During our last dressing, we noticed that the diamond was actually 90 degrees off, so we've made that correction and we've actually touched back off on the diamond. And now we're going to go and do a dress once just to make sure everything is safe and in the right position. And so we'll go over here and we'll go to dress once. We'll turn the feed rate down a little bit just to be safe. We'll push enter and she should come over and start dressing. We'll get the feed rate, we'll turn it up a little bit so we get to our spot there, and hopefully everything works fine. That looks pretty good. I'm going to turn it up now. We should dress once. Doesn't sound like it's hitting yet, but that could be that we're just slightly touching the backside. So I noticed when it was dressing, it wasn't actually clearing off of the diamond. So I went in and I actually added an extra 100 thou to the profile. That way the diamond was clearing off the wheel, and this way we're dressing the entire width of the wheel. And it's getting real close to sounding like that right now, where it's just a continuous dress. It actually looks pretty good. When you're doing this, you're going to find that you're going to have little nuances that you're going to have to make changes just to achieve the goal you're going after. We were just trying to make sure we dressed the wheel and wasn't thinking about it actually getting past. So with that, we're good to go now. Sounds good. I'm going to go and I'm going to hit the stop dress. And the reason I do that and not abort it, this way that it will finish the dress and then it will stop. If you just cycle aboard, it's going to stop right in the middle there. You might only dress half the wheel. You don't want that. So now if you look at it, we can actually turn the spindle off. You can actually look at the wheel. It's nice and trued up. Looks pretty good right now. Of course, you never want to stick your hand in there to find out. Let's wait for it to stop. You see it slowing down. Just about there. She is just about done. You can put your hand there and feel how smooth that is. Nice and smooth. That's the kind of finish you're looking for when you're dressing just a straight right across the wheel. And we'll conclude with today's session and work on something tomorrow. We'll be doing some grinding, probably some plunge grinding, doing some blanks of some kind, maybe some 2 or 3 steps. We'll look at some through feed grinding as well as doing some in feed grinding if you have any heads on the parts.